allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join us in a moment of silence as we reflect on those serving in the United States Armed Forces, both past and present, the elected leaders of the state of Pennsylvania and the elected leaders of our nation. We have much to be thankful for in our community. Thank you. You be seated. All right, the Board of Directors met on the following dates in executive session to discuss items in one or more of the following areas, personnel or legal matters, and that was May 25th, 2022, and a board workshop was held on June 13th, 2022. With that, we'll move on to item 4, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Stout.
Great. It's great to see so many people in the audience this evening. I think we're starting first tonight with our recognition of the students that were involved in our Special Olympics program. So Dr. Ball and Mrs. Burke.
Okay. The Owen J. Roberts Special Olympics took place on Friday, May 13th at the OJR Wildcat Stadium. While it was a drenched morning, our students and volunteers braved the storms just in time for a clearing sky. This is the second year we've held the Special Olympics at Wildcat Stadium. We were fortunate to have so many wonderful volunteers to include our Best Buddies members, teachers, paraprofessionals, administrators, and family members. We had approximately 80 athletes, 85 staff and faculty, and about 175 family and friends attend the event. Tonight, we're excited to have several of those athletes here to receive recognition for their participation in this wonderful event.
Good evening. I'm going to call the names of the students who are here this evening. So when I do, if you'd please come up front, and our teachers are going to help hand out the certificates. All right, first we have Lily Shahusky. Next is Avery Musselman. Then we also have Kane Sweeney. We have Declan Wiley. Ethan Famous. And then we have a few friends joining us on Zoom this evening: Zizu Farag, Noel Miller Monroe, Shane Richards, Kyle Hanna, and Zach Rolston. All right, we're going to go out and take a picture.
So that's the way you get to leave the meeting early, by going out in the hallway, taking a picture, then you can just leave right from there. So, good. So, okay, next we have Dr. Cuthbert. I believe it is the Spring Athletic Awards.
We had a good spring this year by all of our student athletes. We came very close to getting 4 pack champions, which might have been a record. Baseball, softball, girls lacrosse, and boys lacrosse all qualified for the PAC championships. Final Fours, and we're all in the top 10 in district playoff points, so they all made districts, and baseball and girls lacrosse also qualified for state. So we had a lot of great things going on by all of our teams this spring. We did end up with 1 PAC champion, so we have the baseball team. So if I have members of the baseball team, if you guys want to come up. And we're going to do like they did. We'll do the group. We have 4 different groups. And then after we're done, we'll go to the hallway and give the certificates out in the hallway. I know Coach Gilbert was coming, but he was at another game, so he will probably arrive late. The baseball team finished 25-2. They were like I said earlier, they were PAC champions, and they were also District 1 champions, so we'll have a banner coming for the gym for them, too. They had an outstanding season. Coach Gilbert, Coach Condello, Coach Fisher, Coach Yoder, Coach Hensley, Coach Keppel, and all of our players did an outstanding job. They were really fun to watch. They were older folks who have cardiac issues, some of those games at the end there when they waited to come back to the last inning. They were very exciting, though, but so congratulations to our baseball team on an outstanding year. Great job, guys. We also have some individuals from the boys and girls track and field teams. So any of our track and field athletes, if you're here, come on up. Same thing, we'll do all the certificates in the hallways afterwards. So track, we had Ava Taylor, PAC champion in the 3,200 meters. Claire Zuby, PAC champion in the 1,600 meters. 4th at districts in the 3,200 meters in the state qualifier. Gianna Leimeister, PAC champion in the javelin. 2nd at districts in the javelin and also a state qualifier. And Finn Pirtle, Evan Holliday, Nathan Hayes, and Thomas Damiani were PAC champs in the 4x400 meter relay. And Andrew McGonigal was 4th at districts in the 3,200 meters and was also a state qualifier. So congratulations to all of our track and field athletes on an outstanding season. Great job. Yep. Boys tennis. Do we have any of our boys tennis? Yeah, come on up. All right. So boys tennis, we had Talon Guyan, who placed 4th at the PAC Singles Championship and 5th at the PAC Doubles Championship, qualifying for districts in both of those events. And Jack Sawicki placed 5th at the PAC Doubles Championship and was also a district qualifier. So congratulations to our tennis athletes. Great job, guys. And the last group will be our PAC awards. These are the academic teams. They go to our senior from each team with the highest GPA on the team. So these guys and girls are really outstanding in the classroom and on the field. We have Thomas Damiani for boys track and field, Morgan Weaver, girls track and field, and she was also our spring PAC Citizenship Award winner, Aaron Kirby for baseball, William Jager for boys lacrosse, Akash Prabhu for boys tennis, Grayson Smith, girls lacrosse, and Courtney Glass for softball. Are any of you guys here tonight? Oh, Courtney. Come on up. So again, these are something we're always proud of. The student athletes are true student athletes. They do everything in the classroom like they should, and they're also excelling on the field. So congratulations to all of our PAC award winners. I'll have you start in the hallway in a minute, okay? That's it for the spring athletic update. Thank you.
Okay, the Owen J. Roberts class of 2022 graduation was held on a beautiful Friday evening on June 10th at Wildcat Stadium, and we had a total of 429 students receive their diplomas that evening. The district starts summer hours this week. The district will be closed for 6 Fridays throughout the summer. Employees will work extended hours Monday through Thursday each week, saving the district an estimated $60,000 in utility fees. A special board meeting has been scheduled for Tuesday, June 28th to interview and appoint a new school board member. Details can be found on the district website. On tonight's agenda, we will be requesting the board's approval for the 2022-23 budget and the collective bargaining agreement with the Roberts Education Association. along with appointing Mr. Brad Bentman as the Director of Pupil Services, Mr. Jeff Detweiler, Principal, West Vincent Elementary, and Ms. Heather Gillen Esposito, Principal, North Coventry Elementary School. We have several retirees that are not here this evening, but I would like to say a short comment of each of our retirees. So the first retiree is Judy Anastasi, East Coventry. And Judy has faithfully served as a general music teacher solely at East Coventry Elementary School for her entire career and with the district. During her time in the district, she has shared her love of music with thousands of students in both general music and chorus. In retirement, she will have the opportunity to spend more time with her grandchildren and enjoy even more time at one of her favorite places, Disney World. Congratulations and thank you for your years of service to the district. Next, we have Brenda Frunheiser, a high school math teacher. Mrs. Frunheiser has been a member of the high school math department for the last 4 years. She was a great asset to our students, particularly at the calculus level. Among her teaching responsibilities, Brenda taught advanced placement calculus, AB, and continued to generate strong student interest in higher math and prepare students for the rigorous AP calculus test, as well as the calculus BC the following year. Students in her classroom enjoyed hands-on activities that she planned for them. She had a strong understanding of exactly what kids needed for the AP exam, and it was evident in her planning and the results the district received over the last few years. She oversaw our very first student-run math day for the middle school, and she empowered student leaders to drive this event and provided an engaging opportunity for middle school students to see the relevance of math from the perspective of a high school student. Last, this evening, who is retiring, we have Nancy Miller from French Creek. And Nancy's retiring as a paraprofessional in our intermediate life skills classroom at French Creek. She is looking forward to spending time with her first grandchild, who will be arriving in November, and she is planning to travel and have more time to sew during her well-deserved retirement. So, Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Stout. Moving on to agenda item number 5, which is public comment. Information, proposals, statements from individuals or delegations pertaining to items on the agenda. Speakers are to indicate your name, township of residence, and the item on the agenda to which you are comments are addressed. Speakers are limited to no more than 3 minutes, and please understand this is not a time for dialogue with the board, but rather the board will listen to all comments and consider them in future deliberations. If you're on Zoom tonight, as always, you can use the raise hand function. Thank you.
Good evening. You'll have to pardon me. I have to use my phone. Ran out of ink today. Good evening, board members, Dr. Stout, Ms. Crumrine. How are you doing over there? And community. My name is Colleen Blute. I'm from North Coventry and East Coventry Township. And I am currently a teacher at the Pottstown School District with way more years than your total years on the school board are totaled. I will be speaking tonight about agenda item 1319, approval of the negotiations agreement with the Roberts Education Association. I'm here to ask some questions regarding the new 5-year teacher agreement. I know the process. You all know I do, and I'll wait, Mr. Friel, until you're looking at me and listening. Thank you. Please stop the clock. I'm waiting for him. Thank you. I'd like to know if the teachers actually voted on this agreement prior to the presentation to you tonight. That's the first question. If the teachers did not vote on it prior to tonight, will they have an individual vote for this agreement so that the community can know the results? And I mean a vote, not just a vote of all those in favor say aye, all those in favor say no. I mean a piece of paper vote that says yes or no. And my third question is, why is this the first time the community is hearing about the teacher agreement with the school board? I've attended board meetings every month since 2000. And every month, nothing has been mentioned, except when I brought it up to the fact that the teacher contract was expiring. Mr. DeFusco was at the same meetings, and he never brought up the topic. This is why there should be a comment from the teachers' union at every monthly board meeting. Because parents, community members, senior citizens are concerned. I looked at the contract. If I were a senior citizen, which I'm pretty close to it, I'd be a little concerned about my taxes. So your transparency that you said you all stood on is not there. Get it there. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dawn Sweeney, Warwick Township, and I'm speaking to agenda items 13.1 and 6.2. Specifically, the excessive 2.4 credits of health and PE. The state requires 1 credit. OGR requires more than double what the state requires. The excess health and PE teachers' salaries, health insurance benefits, and pension costs increase the budget and adversely affect taxpayers who are paying higher taxes thanks to each of you. More egregious is the impact this excessive requirement has on students and their capacity to include higher-level academic classes. It affects special needs students even more because their learning support class periods already removes an opportunity for additional electives. Many students cannot fit the health and PE requirement into their schedule during the school year. It costs $175 for PE and $250 for health too over the summer. $425. That's a week worth of groceries and gas for my family and an unaffordable burden for many OJR families. A current OJR student has an arrangement to leave school one period early to train for their sport. In order to fit a school gym class into their schedule, they would have to drop band, despite the fact that they will be training 20+ hours a week year-round in their sport. Drop band for mandatory pickleball. Are you okay with that? Apparently, you are. Students who play sports spend a minimum of 2 hours, 6 days a week participating in their sports. Many are forced to take PE in the summer for $175, while each of these student athletes do far more in their school sport than in gym class. But OJR is stridently opposed to offering a waiver to these student athletes, even when it prohibits these students from participating in band, orchestra, or taking a higher level academic class like engineering. From an OJR parent, my son had to quit orchestra to take engineering. That is not a fair or a healthy choice. The mission at ONJR is inspiring each student for success today and greatness tomorrow. This excess requirement has repeatedly and consistently failed the OJR mission 100%. The OJR School District states in their vision, do the right thing at the right time for the right reason. Now is the time to remove the excessive 2.4 credit requirement. It's costing taxpayers and it's hurting students. There is no rationale. The excess requirement is indefensible. And it's forcing students to miss out on opportunities to take classes that would benefit them with getting into college or into the workforce. Lastly, please do not approve the current budget. With the increased costs in taxpayers, an average additional $230 a year, over 5 years, that's an increase of almost $1,200, which translates to an extra $100 a month for taxpayers after 5 years. That's way too much of an increase. Please vote no on the
That would
current
be
budget.
time. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Friel, I just want to thank you for your speech at graduation. It was fantastic. My son has said, who is that guy?
Heather McCurry, East Coventry. There's a couple items I want to talk about. The first item is specifically to 13.16 and 13.17, and also the REA agreement. And I think that we're entitled to have a roll call vote on these important topics. The roll call vote has been brought up several times, and we've been totally ignored as the public. And when I was on the board, it's very easy just to sit there and kind of like mumble to yourself and not actually have your vote heard. A roll call goes through in an orderly fashion. Munson, Peterson, Friel, it makes all of you guys accountable for what we actually voted and we went, and you guys have those seats, so we should be entitled to hear what you yourself are actually voting on. With regards to the budget, 13.16 and 13.17, there was a document put up on the website, and it says Budget Fast Facts, and it was pretty self-serving. It actually said what to get this vote passed, and yet you guys put in documents in here, aggressively controlling costs in other areas, but, and down here combined also with several working sessions and public meetings were held to gather input, and that's actually not true, because on the very few meetings that you did have, and we talk, those of us that are brave enough to come, you actually had, over the course of July 9th, 2021, up through today, only one standalone finance session. And on that finance session, you actually had the following in your agenda, and it said, questions will be taken from the public if time permits at the end of the meeting. So when we do come to the meetings and actually offer input and public dialogue that we hope for that happens at a regular meeting, committee meeting, we are not allowed to do that. And you guys have been gracious enough to put commentary period, like to say we can ask a question, but so many meetings, and I can go back through the videos, I'm yelled at and said, a question, you must ask a question, right? That is not the same as public dialogue back and forth. So now you're about to pass a budget that has an alleged $2 million deficit, even though when I went through all the agendas and the recordings, numerous people came through and suggested items to trim the budget, and you refused all of them. One example is the pay-to-play aspect. And right here in the comprehensive plan, I reviewed it all. Actually, that was done in October, and there were numerous suggestions from the 40 people that participated and those of us that got on the listening sessions, and all of those ideas were ignored. That actually hurts my heart that you guys did that, because this on here, it's not just $121 per person, it's the overall cost. And people are struggling right now in this community. You may think it's only $121, but maybe. But you guys didn't take into
Thank you,
account
Ms. McCreary.
any of our suggestions at all,
Thank you for your
not one.
comments, Ms. McCreary. Thank you. Mr. President, that's the end of public comment.
All right, thank you very much. Board, item number 6, board committee reports. Chester County Intermediate Union. Ms. Munson.
So the Chester County Intermediate Unit Board met on June 15th, 2022. I'm always amazed by the things that they present. They do such a variety of programs, I can't even begin to cover it, but just a couple of facts I wanted to pull out of the presentation as they kind of summarized what they had done for the Chester County area over this past school year. They saved $11.5 million for the entire consortium of the school districts that participate in their bulk buying programs. And OJR is one of those that does participate in those programs. So that was a great number to hear. And for the districts in Chester County, they've also obtained $64 million worth of grants. I really think that their communications program there has been a huge asset to the county. And another thing to note is that they've gotten just recently from the National School Public Relations Association 5 communications awards. So I think they're an organization that we can be proud of being associated with, and I'm very glad that we have them to lean on for these things that we need. The next meeting will not be in July, they're skipping that. So it will be August 17th, 2022 at the CCIU building. Thank you.
Thank you. Curriculum Special Education, April?
The Curriculum and Special Education Committee has not met since our last session. Thank you.
LMP, Dan?
Legislative and Policy has not met since our last board meeting.
All right, and Finance, Building and Grounds. John?
We have not met since the last meeting. We will be voting tonight on several items. 13.6 to 13.18 are all budget approval items. We've been meeting regularly since November to review these budget items and proposals. All the public presentations are posted on the finance page of the district's website for public viewing. Being mindful of the current times, we're using the $2.5 million fund balance to balance next year's budget, and the tax increase is below the 2%, as we've stated earlier, which is below the 10-year average. For 13.9, we'll be reviewing the REA employment contract. I don't know if you want to speak more on that, Paul.
We can, well, I guess when we bring it up, we'll have more discussion when that comes up.
Item 13.2 is the contract renewal with Chartwells to provide food service operations for the district, which are primarily breakfast and lunches. Another item we'll be voting on. And then finally, item 13.1 is another change order for the district service center. There was a water service line that was discovered that was not in the original building documents. That needs to be capped and handled prior to installation of the new services. So we'll be voting on that change order. And that's all I have to report for now.
All right, thank you. And 6.5, Personnel Committee. Rita, can you hear us out there?
Can you hear me? Okay. We have, as you can see on the agenda, many personnel items this month for the board's approval. And as Dr. Stout mentioned earlier, two of note are, of course, the vote tonight to place Mr. Brad Bettman as our new Director of Pupil Services, and of course our two new principals that will be joining West Vincent and North Coventry Elementary School. And on behalf of the board, I would like to thank all of the stakeholders who participated in the process of identifying and interviewing and making sure we had the best candidates for our school district. And I'm sure we will all be pleased as we move forward with them, and we will look forward to welcoming them to the district and of course keeping Mr. Bettman here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Item number 7, recommended routine matters. 7.1, motion to approve recommended routine matters. 7.2 to 7.9. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Melnizak, Dr. Melnizak.
Second.
Mr. Manos. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. 8, recommended routine matters. 8.1, acknowledge receipt of donations, contributions, and gifts. High school, Thomas and Susan Smith, $50 to the high school animal studies program. The Roberts Athletic Association, $9,980 to help offset the cost of the purchase of new batting cages for the baseball, softball teams. Thank you very much for that. Middle school, Rita's Water Ice, $181.62. East Coventry Elementary, $700 to purchase the East Coventry PTA. Give us $700 to purchase of a keyboard for the music department, and $1,412 for 2nd, 5th, 6th grade field trips. West Vincent Elementary, the West Vincent PTA, $100 to 1st grade field trip, and $300 for each the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade field trips. Owen J. Roberts, Friends of the Arts, $400 for the Summer Enrichment Arts Camp Scholarships, and Pottstown Area Health and Wellness Foundation School Wellness Checklist Challenge Awards. So the high school received $450, middle school $450, East Coventry Elementary $450, East Vincent $500, French Creek $450, North Coventry $450, and West Vincent Elementary $500. I have a motion to accept the donations as read.
Motion.
Second.
All right, I'll give it to April and then David. All those, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 9, approval of routine matters. 9.1 is the approval to, for consent items 9.2 through 9.5. Could I have a motion to approve those following routine matters?
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Moreno. April, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Board will make a, hold on, I'm skipping a page here. There we go. All right, board discussion. So 10.1, board discussion. Any items for tonight anybody would like to bring up?
Regarding the teacher contract questions, I personally do not know how the teachers union does communicate with their members regarding this. So I wonder if that's something we can know, like, do they take a vote of every teacher, or they just rely on their leadership to make the decisions to accept the contract?
You want to share?
Sure. What typically happens, and what happened here as well, is that the union leadership will do a presentation and present the contract to their members. Then their members here have 2 days before they can do a vote on it, but their members vote on it. And that was held previously. I think that was held a week ago.
Do you know if it's just a simple majority, or that, and I'm sure that never happens, but what the rule is on that?
Yeah, I don't know that.
Okay.
What I can tell you is that they did have the majority, but I don't know.
Right, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's I was looking back to the benchmarks. So. All right. So 2/3 majority. And it passed. So
Yes,
we're,
and then just
yeah.
also on this, as far as communicating to our community, I'm sure when you're negotiating, that's a very touchy subject. So is there legal things that maybe Mr. Subers could just explain to us as far as?
No, generally speaking, the negotiations are conducted in a confidential manner to facilitate the resolution of the disputes between the parties. So it's not something that you would be disclosing to the public on an ongoing basis.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to let you know, we're actually the first board to actually published it ahead of time, ahead of the vote. In the past, we've taken a vote, and then it becomes public after the vote. So we have actually made it public prior to the vote.
Okay, so that's not typical. Usually
That
it's
is
just
not
published
typical.
After.
We made it public prior to the vote.
Okay.
Just clarification, you mean prior to our vote, not prior to when the teachers voted on it?
Prior to tonight, yes.
Right.
Prior to this
Okay,
vote, yes.
thanks.
Yeah, that's not a past practice. That's something. Yeah. All right.
I just want to also thank Jennifer for her work with the CCIU. It seems like there's a lot of great things happening there, and I appreciate all your attention to it, and you're sharing all that with us.
They'll speak to anybody. If any of you want to be connected with somebody at the CCIU, they are so friendly and give us so much information. I can't even absorb everything that they give us in those board meetings.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the invitation.
So if there's no more, I'll just give a shout out to the organization I think the entire graduation ceremony was wonderful. I think it went, it was really well organized. It went really great. Who was ever in charge of weather, you get a double thumbs up because it was great. So, and you just saw the kids beaming when they came across the stage, like they couldn't even help it. So honestly, it's one of the privileges of doing this volunteer work. I mean, usually it's a little mundane, but that was like exciting. It was really nice to see all the kids kind of just break out and beaming as they walked across the stage. And it was a really nice time and event. So everybody who had anything to do with that, you guys did a really fantastic job organizing, and it went really well. So thank you all for that. So.
Well, fortunately, Mr. Kohler's here, and the majority, all that work comes from his office and the staff at the high school. But I agree, they did a wonderful job in all their planning. It was a great night.
Yeah. And then since I have them, I'll give a quick nod of appreciation. Dr. Marchini, is this going to be your last visit to us tonight as a member of the staff? Okay. Well, you're always welcome back if you want, Yeah. If you come back, you will be limited to 3 minutes, but we'll welcome you.
He's going to have to move into the district.
Yeah. I can't wait. You can always submit it in writing. Ms. Carmine, for item 11, is there any old business?
There is no old business, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. 12, new business approval of personnel matters. I think I have to, hold on one second. I got a note on one of these. Was it 17 or 7? For Rita's.
12.17, I believe, Mr.
Oh,
President.
17, so this is fine? Okay, all right.
No, 12.17.
Yeah, 12.17.
Okay. So I'm going to go, I'm just going to pull out and ask for a motion to approve 12.2 through 12.16 routine matters. Can I have a motion for 12.2 through 12.16?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Marino and Dr. Melnazak. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So on 1217,
Mr. Friel, can I just add?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to just add. But they beat me to the punch. But obviously, we have two folks here. So we have Brad Bentman, who is our outgoing principal at North Coventry, but that will be joining our district office team as Director of Student Services or Pupil Services. So we're thrilled to have Brad in that role. And then we have Heather Gillen Esposito, who is here with us tonight, and her family, who were making noise for her throughout our presentation. So it's great to have them, but we're thrilled to have Heather join our team. So Heather, welcome. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Stout, you didn't have pom-poms. I'm just...
Well, I did say they came a year late for me to celebrate me, but that was not the case. So, but we're glad to have them here.
Oh, thank you. All right, 12.17, ratification approval of substitute part-time and casual appointments. And this is the one I pulled out, and just so everybody understands what we did, someone has to abstain from this vote. That's why it's pulled out separately. Ratification approval, substitute part-time and casual appointments. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. DiMarino.
Second.
April. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And Ms. Peterson had abstained from the vote.
And I abstain.
And then 12.18, can I have a motion to pass 12.18, the ratification approval of extracurricular activities as presented?
So moved.
Dan?
Second.
And Kathy. All right. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, on to item 13, new business. 13.1 is approval of the comprehensive plan. Can I have a motion for the approval of the comprehensive plan as presented?
So moved.
Ms. DiMarino?
Second.
Dr. Melnazak, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.2 is annual approval of the school board members, superintendent of schools, and cabinet to attend conferences. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Marino? Dan? Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.3, annual approval of out-of-state overnight student trips. Can I have a motion as presented?
Motion.
Second.
David and April. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.4, approval of the PSBA Legislative Policy Council delegates. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
David, Dan, second.
Do we need to
you
put the
have
names
the-
in
yeah.
before we make that motion?
Yeah, they're not in there.
Oh, okay. I don't have my reading glasses, so I'm sorry. So is it, it's,
It's blank.
It's
We need to fill
it's
in the
John.
blanks.
delegate and an alternative.
right, do we have, you were on there now, right?
Yeah.
And we're continuing with you. And do we have an alternate? Or to be named later? Any volunteers?
Yeah, I was going to say, probably be better to take a volunteer now and just get it over with,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, it's really, it's a one meeting a year, and you get information, just like the rest of us do on the school board, so.
And is it in November?
The fall, yeah. Last year, we had talked about, breaking away from the National School Board Association, and there were other discussions. I see a man over there.
Oh,
Are we volunteering, Dan?
I think Kathy just volunteered Dan.
I nominate Dan.
I didn't even see the bus coming. I don't know.
You'd be so great at
Just
it.
an alternate, Dan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only if I get sick and I can't go.
And with much enthusiasm, Mr. Doherty and Dr. Melnizak are our designees for the.
Last year was via
Still
Zoom,
friends.
so.
Yeah, Kathy owes you a beer. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. 13.5, authorize the district administration to employ personnel and execute employment contracts for positions previously approved by the board, subject to limitation imposed by the 22-23 budget.
So moved.
Ms. Munson.
Second.
Ms. DiMarino, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.6, authorize the payment of bills as otherwise required during the interval between June 22nd board meeting and August 22nd board meeting, subject to approval by the district administration and subsequent ratification by the board.
So moved.
Second.
David, April, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.7, approval of emergency instructional time template for 22-23. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Ms. DiMarino, Mr. Doherty, any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.8, approval of the state special education plan. Have a motion?
So moved.
April,
Second.
Kathy, any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.9, ratification of homebound instruction. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
April, Dan, any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.1, or 13.10, approval of memorandum of understanding between the Crimes Victims Center of Chester County, Inc. and Owen J. Roberts School District. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
April, John, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.11, approval of confidential waiver and agreement and a release. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
April,
Second.
Kathy, second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. 3.12, approval of student activity club advisors and student officers. Can I have a motion?
So
So
moved.
Kathy?
I'll second.
And Dan. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.13, approval of 22-23 athletic ticket prices. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
David?
I'll second.
Dan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.14, approval of authorization of budget transfers, fund transfers, and GASB 54 committed fund balance amounts associated with the final audited financial statements. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
David?
I'll second.
Dan? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.15, approval of district insurance policies for 22-23. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
April?
Second.
And David, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.16, approval of the proposed tax resolution for 22-23. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Munson?
Second.
Mr. Armanis? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.17, approval of final 22-23 governmental and proprietary funds budget. Have a motion?
So moved.
Dr. Melnizak?
Second.
Mr. Manis? Thank you. Any discussion?
I just want to say a couple of things about this. I just find this to be a really hard struggle with the budget. I've said in other meetings, you know, I'm not, this is not my strong suit, but it's just been a very troubling year. I've had some specific circumstances that have caused that, and I just know that it's really difficult. The economy is very hard for a lot of people right now, and I am concerned just about, you know, the fact that everyone has to make sacrifices, and maybe we haven't sacrificed enough. I know no one wants to give up any programs or any teacher, and I don't either, but I just wanted to comment on that it's very hard, and I don't think there's any way to win it.
That's fair enough.
I think I have to echo Kathy's sentiments, and I frankly am really conflicted about this vote tonight, because I do think this is a fiscally responsible budget. It is below the Act 1 index and below the 10-year average, as we've stated all along, and I think we need to make those investments in our students going forward. I think that, you know, you've done a great job with the proposed budget, but a tax increase is a tax increase, and what we're dealing with right now in terms of the broader economy, I have concerns about what that's going to do to our constituencies, and I just don't know that I could go forward with a tax increase at this time, given everything that people are facing in their own personal lives and their own personal budgets. So, I mean, that's just where I am with everything right now.
No, I think this is one of the most difficult decisions you make as a school board, because you're constantly put in a position of, you know, you have unfunded mandates, and you actually helped us write the FAQ for the budget to explain as a member of the finance committee,
right,
why this is going on. We also transferred, and we started out with a $5.5 million deficit, and we did some cutting and some reduction to get it down, and we still left with a $2.5 million gap that we had to fully make up with transferring all of our fund balance over to do that. So we used 100% of our fund balance transferred over to get us down to that 1.98. So beyond this, it's cutting people, right? So and programming, right, with the students, and it's the thing we're here to do: serve our community and invest in our students and make sure that they're there. And, like anything, it's a budget that we're going to have to, and we're going to be faced with this, next year, because it's only going to go one direction on cost from the state, right? Unless the budget comes down differently from Harrisburg, which, there might be a chance. And I would say, if the budget comes down and there's room in that fund balance next year, that's going to happen right now with the funding that's coming out of Harrisburg today, right? That'll determine what happens for next year. So if you can, for those of all of us who don't feel like property tax is the right place to put school funding, we need that budget to put more to public education, and that'll relieve some of the pressure here, because it'll create that fund balance we'll have to move next year for us to be able to do that. So I'm hopeful that we can do that. I certainly feel that pain every time we're sitting here, but we have, in fact, done something different than the past boards, which voted just to go at the Act 1 index, which would have been 3.4%. And we've moved away from that last year, and we moved away from it again this year to significantly lower that. And thank you for the administration and the school district for either lowering or reducing every single building budget, from the controllable cost point of view. So that was helpful, and it's helping us to at least mitigate what is always a tough vote. With that, we have a motion for, do we have a second? Okay, and we'll call the vote. So all those in favor?
May I continue to comment? Or
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I would agree that I don't like relying on property tax so heavily, but we don't really have an option living in the state of Pennsylvania right now. And I did listen to the community input on suggestions of where we could find things to cut. And I did not hear any suggestions that would have made up the amount that we needed to make up. They're just, were not any suggestions put forward that seemed to be feasible. So I agree that I think our change in approach to starting with, let's see if we can do a 0% increase and only increase taxes if it is required in order to maintain what the school district actually needs to run, is a much better approach. And that's the one that we are taking now.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right, it was Dan and 2. Rita, you were yay?
I was a yay.
6-2? 6-2.
Yes, Mr. Farrell, I have 6-2 with Ms. Doherty and Mrs. DiMarino as nays, correct?
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
All right. 3.18, approval of the 2022 Homestead and Farmland Exclusion Resolution. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. DiMarino?
Second.
April? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 3.19, approval of negotiations agreement with Roberts Education Association. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Kat, who's first?
Was
Dr.
Jen.
Meldezak?
Jen for second.
Okay, all right. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.20, approval of award for requests for proposals, food service management company. So this is the bid award for the food service. Can I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Dan? David?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.21, approval of construction change order. This is the construction change order that David mentioned in his update for the new service center. Have a motion?
So moved.
So moved, David.
Second.
Second, Kathy. All those, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.22, is that 22? Okay. Sorry, I forgot my reading glasses today, so I'm struggling with some of the numbers. Approval of professional service maintenance agreements as presented. Can I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Dan?
Second.
And Kathy, second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Item 14, public comment. So this is information proposals from individuals, delegations pertaining to any item. Speakers are indicate your township of residence, your name, and you're limited to not more than 3 minutes. And please understand, this is not a time for dialogue with the board. Rather, the board will listen to all comments and consider them in future deliberations. Also, if you have a question for the school board, please remember to email the school board directors. Anybody on Zoom, as always, you can use the raise hand function to request your time. Thank you.
Before I start, close one eye. It works. I'm serious. It works. I would have given you these. They're pink, but I didn't think they'd go with you. Good evening, board members, Dr. Stout, Ms. Crumrine, and community. My name is Colleen Blute, North Coventry and East Coventry. Okay, June 19th, also known as Juneteenth, AKA Freedom Day, was declared a federal holiday by the Biden administration in 2021. This day commemorates the day in 1965 when news of the Emancipation Proclamation reached Galveston, Texas. It was announced that the enslaved African Americans were free. I don't know if you realize this, but some of the students in this school district, it could have been their grandparents, their great-grandparents, their great-great-grandparents that were in Galveston, Texas. The school board speaks frequently about equality, equity, and diversity, yet you are holding this meeting tonight, which is the observed date for Juneteenth. Yes, I'm attending this meeting to call the board out on not rescheduling this meeting. I sent each of you an email, and yes, I knew Mr. Friel was the only one who would respond, but I got nothing. All you had to do was reschedule this meeting to Tuesday, June 21st, as you have scheduled several other meetings to Tuesdays. The board talks about equality, equity, and diversity from one side of their mouth, and then they don't show the respect to the African American community with the other side of their mouth. You spent almost an hour at a previous meeting discussing the calendar, but never thought about June 19th. It wasn't my responsibility as a community member to remind you of that. It's yours. I was disappointed in the respect that the board shows to the community unless it is to their own advantage. Our African American community is a good group of people. I spent an entire day yesterday at the Ricketts Center and had a blast. Didn't see any of you there. And some of the students in O&J go to the Ricketts Center because it's a safe haven for them, and they get to meet everyone that's of their race and religion and have a good time and shoot hoops and dance and have an awesome, awesome day. But I didn't see any of you there. Would have been nice to have you there. I think the students would have loved it too. Thank you.
Okay. Heather McCurry again. I want to say I love the time that I spend as volunteer with kids, and we forgot something on the beginning, and I don't think this should count for my 3 minutes. Mr. Kohler's here, and as still this is my outgoing year as treasurer of the high school PTA, but the high school PTA raised and contributed $12,500 to send a bunch of kids, 400, right, to Hershey Park. And we also did that last year. We spent more money last year, about $14,500. So just want to acknowledge that. And a shout out to Dr. Marchini, who also, the high school PTA gives about $10,000 to $15,000 every year for post-prom. So real quick, special ed minutes here that you have from the state education plan do not reflect the failure to identify, which was flagged. That failure is not on the minutes from the meeting that we had. That's really important. That needs to be corrected, especially since you have a new pupil services director. The REA contract, Board Director DiMarino, actually is 5 years. It never has been 5 years ever. It was 5 years this year. It was 4 years last time. Most school districts are only 2 to 3 years. Pottstown has a 2 or 3 year contract right now. So that, I hope that was pointed out to you guys. The budget was totally ignored, all of the suggestions, and maybe altogether collectively there could have been some work to that. But again, you guys have all but shut out public input. People text me, they're afraid to talk and come up here because of how they're being treated. You had no interactive budget workshops or anything where we could talk. And the other thing that I want to say is the curriculum. The issue with the curriculum that was all throughout this comprehensive plan goes directly to the excess gym and health credits, and that needs to be fixed. You charged kids money for summer school that you should not, right? You should actually not be taking their money. You raised the budget. There's holes in there. You all know it. And you should not be charging them to take those excess credits. In addition, there are actual cyber charter students in this district that have not been called to come back. So yeah, maybe there were a couple areas, oh, there's this little pay to play, you know, this or that, whatever. Maybe we don't need all those Chromebooks, sorry, Paul. But you guys, actually, there's real live cyber charter students that have never been contacted to come back, never. There were ways that you guys could do this without doing that to the people in this district. And you should actually be not charging for the summer school gym and health credits. That's just wrong.
Good evening. My name's John Callier, West Vincent Township, father of 3 sons, one that graduated in 15, one in 17, and I have an incoming 9th grader. I appreciate all of your volunteerism here, and I'm here as having been a volunteer of the local Youth Lacrosse Association, the Coventry Youth Lacrosse Association, for the last 17 years, first as a parent, then as a coach, and as various age group coordinator. In the beginning of this meeting tonight, we got a report on the athletic endeavors of 4 teams. 4 teams that made it to the Pac-10 championship, 4 teams that made it in the districts, and of those teams, 3 made it deep in the districts, and 2, I believe, went to states. The one common theme with 3 of those sports, baseball, softball, and girls lacrosse, is they all have a 7th grade team, an 8th grade team, I believe in most cases a 9th grade team, JV and varsity. In lacrosse, boys lacrosse, we have JV and varsity. So I want to talk briefly about the high school's steady decline of the lacrosse program since 2017, when my second son graduated, to last year's first losing season in some 15 years, to our new coach who's brought a lot of new energy, and made it to the Pac-10, back to the Pac-10 championship game, and we had our first district win against North Penn. We finished in the top 10, District 1. And to try to keep that momentum going, because I've been part of the program, the youth program, for 17 years, I can tell you right now, the only way that a high school program develops and stays on top is to be feeding constant kids into the high school program. And again, as I mentioned, the one common theme, that we don't participate, we don't have a 7th, 8th, or 9th grade lacrosse team. And all I'm here to ask for right now is just one middle school team, and here's why. 15 of the 20 District 1 schools, top 20 this year in high school, have middle school teams now. Many of them, most of them, have a 7th grade team and an 8th grade team. 6 PAC schools, so half of the 12 in the Pioneer Athletic Conference, now have middle school teams. Pottsgrove, Phoenixville, Upper Marion, Methacton, Springford, Interborough. The history of the PAC is for teams in the PAC is athletic, and it's along the 422 corridor from Boyertown and Owen-J to Upper Marion and Norristown. And I can tell you right now that one of the declines of the Chester County League, the youth league that we've been part of from 72 participants in 2011 to 2014 down to 42, and this is just at the 7th and 8th grade level, to 27 and 22.
Sorry, that's the end of public comment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And you can always submit any extra information you wanted to provide. You can send us an email on that, and we can take a look at that.
Mr. President, that's the end of public comment.
All right, board discussion and follow-up, request for information. 15.1, so any other additional board discussion?
Could I just ask a quick question? Do we have an update on the technology set up for us to be able to go around to the different locations in the district for future meetings?
We do not tonight. I know Mr. San Francisco has been getting some estimates on that, and then there's a meeting set up for Mr. Friel, Mr. San Francisco, and I to discuss that further.
Yeah, so we've been getting bids on that, but our plan is still we're going to be having Zoom meetings that we can travel with.
Right.
So
That's what we want. Yeah. Okay.
So that is definitely, that is just kind of going to wait for another month or so before we have that all finalized.
And yeah, while we're talking about different locations, is the stadium enabled now so that broadcasting can be done from the stadium?
No, it is not.
Is that anything that's on the roadmap?
Mr. Sanfran, I'm just looking at you.
He's still looking down.
We have Huddle set up for there for sports streaming only. So like that we have in the gymnasium, we have the Huddle cameras, but graduation, the IU did that for us.
Right, okay.
They
Yeah,
brought
'cause I
their
thought
own
we did
system.
have
They brought their,
streaming.
yeah,
Okay, so they have a mobile system that can be brought in.
Correct.
For something like a graduation.
yeah, and that was a huge, they brought their whole AV department in, and they brought actually a cell tower to stream it because we don't get reception down there.
Right, I knew we had a reception problem
Oh, yeah.
down there, so.
Yeah, and they brought a
so
whole-
That still exists.
Yep.
Thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
We plan on some big board meetings next year, Paul. We're going to be needing the stadium. Just letting you know in advance. It's going to happen.
When Rich is going to.
We're going to hear Rich's public comment. Yeah, okay. We'll be looking forward to that one. So one thing I'd be interested in board request, just a request for information, is to the point, and I don't know the answer to this, adding a middle school sport, like what's involved in that? What's the driver behind it? Like what would be the process for us to evaluate lacrosse? Like I know it's a big program, so I guess I didn't even realize we didn't have one. So I just if someone could update the board on actually what does that involve and how does that work? Because I just don't know. Nothing to read into there. I just don't know the answer to that, so I want to be informed on that one.
I have another question on another topic, just regarding that cyber charter students. I know in the past, Dr. Marchini has talked to us about the procedure of going out to anyone who's at a charter school and speaking to them, and are we still using that procedure, and what's happening with that?
I have talked with Dr. Marchini about that, and we do reach out to the cyber charter families over the summer to try
Over the
and
summer,
get
okay.
them to come back to O&J Roberts, but you have some that for some reason or another don't want to come back. But we're hopeful now that we have our MOU with our own cyber program that we can continue to promote that and get more families back.
Is that Mr. Bentman's new job then, to
That-
contact all those families?
Yes, that
He's
will
not
be.
listening, but-
Yes, that will be part of his position, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Brad's official now. We can put him on the spot, so he's there. No, we're just kidding. We're not going to do that to you. Maybe next time.
Could I,
yeah,
sorry,
go.
one more thing. With respect to school safety, the board gets a lot of updates on things that happen, from our campus police internally, but I'm just wondering, is there anything that, especially in light of what happened in Texas, is there anything we can do to better inform our public, especially as a parent myself of a student in an elementary school here? Like, what do we do? What is our or safety plan? You know, is there anything we could put out there to better inform the public about what steps and measures we take to make sure our students are safe?
Yeah, we do have a safety plan, Mr. Doherty. We do not put that out publicly because obviously what our plans, we would not want someone who could be a perpetrator know. But when folks reach out to me, I respond to them. I mean, just what we've done as a district, I mean, we have our own security force here. We have Officer Metzger, who is our chief of security. Then we also have a police officer in our high school, and then we have multiple security staff in other buildings. But beyond that, we do audits of our buildings. There was a comprehensive study done before I got here, but I know part of that was to equip all of our classrooms with automatic locks so our teachers don't have to walk out into the hallway with a key. They can lock their classrooms immediately. So we run drills, we do training, but as far as putting that out there publicly, what we do, we don't put that out publicly for folks to know what our plan would be.
And I'll just reiterate from when we were on the board, when we did that full safety audit, and we had a comprehensive plan with recommendations of capital. So when we went into COVID, we did, and just so everybody's knowledge, we did do many of the suggestions that came forward. We did in the last 2 years under COVID in terms of deferring capital, deferring some expenses, doing that. The single item that we did not defer was the safety items. We went through with 100% of the capital improvements recommended in the safety audit. And that involved, you know, as we said, the door locks, some windows, the vestibules, so the entrance and exits, and it's some extension of the radio signals with some of the buildings that were weak. So we went forward with 100% of the recommended audited capital there. We did not defer any of that as part of the COVID. That was the only item that we did not defer and move forward with. But it has been recommended, as Dr. Stout said, that we don't publish the details of all that stuff for obvious security reasons. But the district did invest there.
Is the safety plan up for another review for next year soon, or?
I don't know if there's a required safety plan review by the board, but as a district, you're required to have an all hazards plan. But again, I'm not sure if I don't think it's an annual renewal, but we'll check on that.
Okay.
And I think we're also updating our camera systems too.
We are. We've applied for a grant. We do have the budgeting to do it, but we've applied for a grant. We're hopeful that we can get that grant, and then we don't have to take it out of our general budget to cover that. So we're holding off to see if we get the grant, but we are redoing the camera systems.
Yeah, it might be something we could do early next year as a workshop, just because I think there's only 4 of us on the board that were here during that audit presentation. So maybe we just do that as a workshop, as an overall safety audit. So at least the newer board members, you can see the full breadth of that audit and what we actually did do. So then and then we could talk about what part of that can be public and what can't be, you know, in a little more detail. If that's a good approach to that.
I think another important thing to note on this, and I did pass an article around to the board members from Politico a couple weeks ago, is that really supporting our own students' mental health is probably our best defense. You know, they noted in that article that 90% of the time the school shooters are from their own school, and that they're acts of mass suicide. So again, getting the proper mental health support to the students that we have is going to pay extreme dividends in the future. We really need to support our people.
Yeah.
I also think, isn't the school districts of Chester County looking into a more comprehensive mental health plan?
We are. We're looking into a plan with the University of Pennsylvania to do a more, almost a partnership with them where we would be able to get some staff as part of the grant that would assist us with the mental health needs as well. So all the districts are looking for that, and I know the IU has applied for funding for that to cover the cost of that.
My understanding was that, you know, especially during the pandemic, that first year back, that the counseling staff was pretty overwhelmed with you know, students that needed support, to the point where, you know, some students would come in for help and they were, you know, basically triaging, saying, all right, well, you know, I understand that you're having an issue, but this person's having a heavier issue, so you're just going to have to wait. So we may need to look at, you know, supplementing that counseling staff.
Well, we did hire an additional counselor at the middle school as part of the budget that was just approved tonight, and we do have mental health clinicians that are working in our schools to assist us as well.
Is there any kind of, if there is a large amount of overflow, are there extra, personnel that could be brought in on a temporary basis if there's an influx of?
We can. I mean, if there's a crisis or an emergency, we have access to the Chester County Intermediate Unit has a mental health crisis response team that can help out if you're dealing with something. But we've added staff over the years to help us, and I think we have it covered about as good as you can. But if we would be inundated or overwhelmed, there are resources we could seek out.
And what would trigger that?
Well, typically the mental health unit from the Chester County Intermediate Unit is a really severe case. If you would have a student suicide or a student or a staff member that was killed, typically that's when they come in. If there's something that's very dramatic or traumatic for the school community, then they come out. And it's comprised of mental health personnel from each of the school districts to come together, and they're specially trained to support students in crisis like that.
So like if the staff here is currently overwhelmed, maybe it's not a traumatic situation, maybe it's just, I don't know, circumstance or whatever, could the staff request additional support,
Well, they could, and we also have an employee assistance program here in our school district. So staff that would be having any type of, I'll call it mental health anguish, they have access to resources through our insurance as well.
No, I'm sorry. I think you misunderstood. I meant if the counseling staff is overwhelmed with student requests, can they request additional help from the CCIU or from the county?
Correct. If our counseling staff was overwhelmed with meeting the needs of our students, they would work through our director of pupil services, and then we would secure what we needed to do.
Okay. Thanks.
On that topic, I recently was at a meeting for a group that does counseling specifically for grief counseling for teens, and they are funded by grants. There's no cost, and they're trying to partner with local schools. And so I have some information on that. If anyone's interested in hearing about it, maybe at a future meeting I can bring that to us. Maybe that's something, just to take some of the extra, specifically for grief counseling for teens, but that would maybe help alleviate some of the staff. I'm sure there's other groups like that around. This is just one that I have contact with.
Yeah, there's no doubt mental health, even before the pandemic, we were coming into a mental health crisis in schools, and the pandemic has just exacerbated that issue with students, and not just with students, with a lot of people. So it's something that we're cognitively aware of and we're addressing.
I think some other issues in Chester County specifically would be the number of wards and beds available at hospitals with hospital closures that we faced. I think that's a huge concern that all of us should be aware of and trying to, find out what options are there. The CCIU had put together some I thought some excellent ideas around trying to fill that gap in Chester County, and to try to take that to the state level legislation to see whether funding could be made available so that this area could have more mental health resources, particularly beds or programs, whether it's partial hospitalization or hospitalization for the extreme cases where somebody really needs that kind of help. And I just know personally from trying to get my own children help that it is usually a very long timeline. There are usually waiting lines. It is very difficult to get help for mental health issues, and I don't believe that is just for our school district or our county or even our state. It is a crisis.
Well, I'm hopeful that, as Dr. Stout said, it was prior to COVID, we had been putting some resources within the district to do that. And I know Dr. McKinney had added some part-time assistance in the mental health field. We added counselors and we added stuff. Now, what happened during COVID was we had quarantines, and quarantines pulled staff out of the building and pulled people into roles of covering classes. And that really stressed the entire staffing model that we had in place, which hopefully now that we're back to where we are, and I'm cautiously saying this because the last summer I said the same thing. But I think we're in a different place now. So hopefully those resources that we did put in place 2 years ago now can be utilized as intended, and hopefully will have a positive impact on the ability of our students to, and our staff, in order to manage those needs a little bit more effectively, you know. So we're hoping. And as we said, this is an area we have to invest in. You know, we need our kids to be healthy and safe and feel that way. And it's part, it's part of bringing up, our kids, through this whole process here, And, I'll continue to advocate for that on behalf of us as a school board, that these are good investments, so.
I also would just like to add that there is a parent group, the Mental Health Advocacy Committee, that works really hard to bring in a lot of speakers here to help educate our community and parents. Last year, they did also have a training for trauma-informed care, so that was a fantastic training that parents could get, and you get a certificate at the end. So if you aren't a part of that as a parent or as a community member, I would suggest getting involved, and you can submit more information about if there's anybody you want to hear from, or more information that you need about certain diagnoses. And they also have a great list of support systems that we have within our Chester County area. So.
One more thing that it occurred to me to ask at the CCIU meeting, and it sounded like they might be able to help us figure out a program, would be education for parents on how to secure their own networks at home. Because I feel like we put, Chromebooks in the hands of all these students, and a lot of parents had been in the position of not having devices in their students' hands that they were able to access the internet directly, we have enabled some cases where a student was not directly accessing the internet, and now they are because they have a school-provided Chromebook. And so I thought it would be very helpful if we could try to line up some sort of an education for the parents on what technology is out there, what tools are out there, what are some of the things being offered by Comcast and Verizon that allow you to help with your own home network. So that was an idea that I was hoping to put out there and see whether someone could find some information, some curriculum, something that we could do to help parents with that.
I think one of the schools did have, was it the middle school? That did bring in a speaker about that this year, correct? Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the middle school did have a speaker come in, I think in May. Yeah, to speak about the cyber. So I think that making that a reoccurring thing would be
Definitely
a really great
reoccurring,
thing to
yeah. Because I think it's always, a concern for every generation of parents as their students get to an age where they start exploring. That's when they discover they need it.
Workshops like that should probably just be annual.
Yeah.
Any other requests for information from the board? With that, we're adjourned.